Hi, everybody, and welcome to the month of April, and welcome to Strategic Internet Public Relations. Internet, that's not a term that you hear too often anymore. It's either web or digital, but we're going to show you how this course pulls all that together. And we're going to start in week one by laying the foundation. We're going to take a look at what a individual brand or what an organizational brand needs to be considering with regard to their ethics statement, their values, who they are in the marketplace. You know, it's an interesting time that we live in, that ethics and values play such an integral part. And as a result, what we're seeing is almost a bifurcation of people in America. And when you think about that, how's that impacting marketing? Well, we used to have just a handful of big social media platforms. Remember the good old days when there was Facebook, after Facebook ate MySpace for lunch, and then there was Twitter, and then there was YouTube, and then for businesses there was LinkedIn. Well, things have happened over the years, and Twitter has, according to Elon Musk, lost its way. And as a result, Elon Musk spent $2.9 billion on buying shares of Twitter, becoming the biggest shareholder with a 9.2% stake in the company. He was then offered a seat on the board of directors. Now, the whole reason that he did this was a couple weeks ago, he had put out a poll on Twitter and asked people to seriously consider this question as to whether or not Twitter was censoring people on their platform. And the vast majority of responses came back saying absolutely yes. So Elon Musk went and made the purchase. He now sits on their board of directors. That, by the way, sort of limits him from buying too much more in terms of stock. He can only buy as a board director on the board. He can only buy 14.5% stake. He can't buy anything larger than that stake. He could always resign his board position, and he could or in 2024, his term will be over, and they'll have to consider a different board of director. So he'll be back to being a person that can put a lot more money into the company at that point in time. Why'd he do it? Well, obvious, he felt that there was a censorship issue with Twitter, and being on the board of directors gives him access internally to Twitter. And what you might see, just might, is that Twitter starts to change. Now, organizational change is very slow, but can Elon Musk affect organizational change and take Twitter from a totalitarian type of platform that's exercising great control over freedom of speech? And can he make the changes to bring it back to normal? I've been reading a number of articles on this, and it says that it's going to be very, very hard. So that leaves the other possibility that he could go out, quit his directorship, purchase more stock, and ultimately look at closing down Twitter altogether. That's another possibility. So those are kind of the two edges, and there's a lot in between to play with. So we'll just have to see what happens with Twitter and with Elon Musk. So that really gets into personal ethics, doesn't it? What do you believe your values should be? Do you believe that free speech and social media are the new public forum? Are they the new the new way that we communicate with one another in an open society? And consequently have to be guarded for free speech. So a lot of interesting issues there. But then you also have the fact that Rumble has started to become a major player in the video on demand, user created video on demand marketplace. How many of you have a Rumble account? Have you tried to monetize it? All good questions, right? And look at how this worked out. Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast on the planet, and he interviews, I believe it was Dr. Malone, who invented the technology for the mRNA vaccines, and he gets censored on YouTube. And so what happens is Rumble comes running in and says, "We will help you out. We're going to pick up your podcast." And so all of a sudden you've got Rumble providing an alternative to YouTube. And then you've got other social media platforms out there that are developing niche audiences, but those niche audiences might get very big. You have Getter with over 2 million users, and then you've got Truth Social, which has had some startup problems. They still have a waiting list to get in, and they haven't developed the app for the Android phone yet. So Truth Social has some issues. But if these platforms, Getter and Truth Social and Rumble, if they start to really take away market share from the traditional social media channels, things could get very interesting like I said, over the next 6 to 8 months or so. It could be really, really quite interesting. All right, I want to go back though and take a look at the assignments. And in week 1, let's pop this open. You have no real assignment, but yet you have 3 discussions that combined are worth 21 points. So that's fairly hefty. Typically, a weekly assignment would be anywhere from 10 to 15 points, and then the discussion post would be 5 points. So we're close, but week 1, we dive into ethics. Then we take a look at a video, and I think this is an important video. It's a documentary. It's in 4 parts. And it's called Century of Self. And it runs from basically about 1924 to the year 2000. But the driving figure in this documentary is the father of public relations, the father of modern father of marketing, a gentleman by the name of Edward Bernays. And now you may be saying, well, if it started in 1924, he must not have lasted too long. Well, Eddie, as I like to call him, was born in 1892 and didn't die until 1995. In his 90s, he was actually on David Letterman 2 different times, 2 different years, several years apart. Who would have thought? And he was active. The reason I share that is he was active in his career all the way up until he passed. And so when did he pass? He passed in 1995. He was 103 years old, and he influenced marketing and public relations like we've never seen before. Century of Self focuses mainly on Bernays in the first part, but he impacts parts 2, 3, and 4 as well. Now, I'm only asking you to look at part 1. I give you bonus points if you look at all 3, and I would highly encourage looking at all 3, or all 4 rather, and you get the bonus points, but you're going to get a perspective on the intersection of public relations, marketing, psychology, and politics. Okay? Let's get into week 2. And week 2, we get into the concept of lots of stuff for you to watch. Introduce to you a little bit of measurement in the discussion, but where we really want to focus I clicked the wrong thing, obviously. Week 2, we want to talk about press releases. Now, there's a couple of videos throughout the course that are done by a course director by the name of Amy. Amy and I actually worked together at Disney, and I kept these because I was familiar with Amy's work, and she did a fabulous job. I've augmented with the Zoom call messages and some other movies that I've created for you. But do take a listen to Amy's videos, and they're quite insightful. So in week 2, a press release is really, we're teaching you a methodology to communicate, to get other people to tell your story. The press release is not you writing ad copy. You can do that if you write a blog about your press release, or if you're doing Facebook posts about your press release. The press release is designed to get somebody else to tell your story. And that other person being either a new media journalist or a legacy journalist. Could be print or broadcast. So that's what we're doing in week 2. But the real nugget, that the hidden item here, is that what we're really teaching you is to identify newsworthy events and learn how to manipulate or create pseudo events to fit the purposes of your brand or your business. So we'll talk about not only the format for press releases in week 2, but again, the content, which boils down to newsworthy events, real or contrived, which we call pseudo events. Now, the one thing to understand, most press releases that you see probably relate to about 98.5% are all pseudo events. What is a real event? Well, some might say it's a natural disaster. It's something that's happening in nature, and that would all be right. So a hurricane hitting Orlando, tornadoes hitting Louisville, all natural events that are real. Having a poll or having a panel of weather experts predicting how many hurricanes are going to be in a year is not a real event. It's a pseudo event. It's contrived. We'll talk more about that in week 2. All right, let's go to week 3. And in week 3, you're going to develop a distribution strategy. And what is a distribution strategy? It is how you're going to take the press release and identifies in great detail everybody that you're going to distribute that to. So, should we have done week 3 before we did week 2? It doesn't matter. It's the age-old question of, is it the chicken or the egg? And you get to the same place, which is a great omelet. I don't know why I told that joke. It's pretty bad. At any rate, so week 3 assignment is a distribution strategy. And then week 4, and you're going to develop a crisis management plan, a communication plan for how to deal with a crisis. What you're actually going to do is you're going to go out and look for a crisis. I would strongly suggest using the keywords 2022 public relations crises, and you're going to get a ton of stuff back. So you'll be able to find a crisis. You want to evaluate what you can ascertain from the news reports, but then what do you want to do? You want to add in everything that you've learned this week and create a better plan as a result of that. Okay? I want to jump back to week 1. And we want to take a look at the discussions. So week 1 is ethics, which we talked about. Week 2 is century of self, which we talked about. And week 3 is the public relations crises. And in this case, we're using something very, very, very contemporary. And that is the accident that occurred on the set of the movie Rust, where a young cinematographer, maybe not young, a cinematographer was actually shot by Alec Baldwin, and want you to really dig into this and do the investigations. Now, I will tell you the trick to this is benchmarking. And I'll tell you the case that you're going to look for. It's Midnight Rider. It was a Greg Allman biopic, and the star of the movie was William Hurt, who just recently passed away. So that's exciting. Why? Because there's a lot of controversy about it, and it's happening right now as we speak. You want to take a look at what the production company should be doing in order to protect itself. And I'll tell you that's going to be difficult because Alec Baldwin, the shooter, happens to be the principal of the production company. So there may not be any redemption there, but I want you to really take a look and see what you can find and start to apply all the principles that we're talking about so far. All right, that's everything I want to cover in today's session. If anything else pops up or you have any questions, text me 407-267-8600. If I don't get right back to you, text me again. You may try email or responding to this through the system. Sometimes I can see these messages very easily, and other times I don't see them at all. If I don't answer you, know that it is a technological glitch. And again, the best way to get a hold of me, bar none, is via phone and a text message.